All right, let's jump right into this explainer, covering anatomy of a royal disaster, the fatal gamble. We are looking at one of the most devastating, catastrophic decisions in ancient literature. We're talking about a pivotal moment where an entire empire is literally gambled away. And you know what the most shocking part is? It wasn't an accident, it was a choice. Welcome back, focused learners. Today, we're examining the incredible moment King Yudhishthira walked directly into a trap that he completely understood. If you've ever wondered how highly intelligent people can make predictably disastrous choices, well, this text gives us a profound psychological and cultural breakdown of exactly how that happens. What's really fascinating here is the immediate dramatic irony. I mean, Yudhishthira literally says the quiet part out loud. He knows his destruction is imminent, yet he moves forward anyway. He is fully 100% conscious of the impending doom, which just makes his march back to that gambling hall all the more agonizing to witness. Let's look at part one, the summons to doom. So how exactly do you trap a king? Well, you don't just ask him to play a game. You corner him using the very foundations of his worldview. Yudhishthira isn't just suffering from a gambling addiction here, he's bound by an unbreakable triangle. A royal messenger brings the command of his father-like uncle, the elder king. Add to that his strict code as a warrior king, which dictates he absolutely cannot refuse a challenge. And finally, his deep-seated belief in destiny. These three forces create an inescapable gravitational pull. Look at how he rationalizes the situation. By shifting the burden of the outcome entirely onto the divine ordainer of the creation, he essentially absolves himself of the responsibility to walk away. He really believes that the fruits of his actions, whether good or ill, are inevitable regardless of whether he plays or not. It's a fascinating look at how fatalism completely paralyzes personal agency. It's kind of the ultimate ancient equivalent of throwing your hands up and saying, well, it's out of my hands now, just to justify a terrible decision. Which brings us to part two, the psychology of fate. This gives us a brilliant psychological breakdown of a mind under extreme stress. To explain this, the text points to the myth of Rama chasing a golden deer. Think about that for a second. A living animal made of solid gold is physically impossible, right? Yet even the great Rama suffered himself to be tempted by it. It's just a powerful metaphor showing how even the smartest, most virtuous people can be lured into incredibly obvious traps when the pressure is really on. And this is a strikingly modern observation on human cognition. The ancient author literally uses the phrase disordered and out of order to describe the minds of men over whom severe calamities hang. Impending disaster creates a complete psychological paralysis. So it's not a lack of intelligence, it's a massive cognitive overload where the brain simply stops processing risk rationally because the looming threat is just too overwhelming. Actually, scratch that. It's more than just a bad choice. This derangement is the only way to explain the moment. The text makes it perfectly clear that Yudhishthira returns to the game knowing full well the deception practiced by his opponent, Sakuni. He knows the game is rigged, he knows the guy is a cheat. Yet compelled by fate in this totally disordered psychological state, he and his mighty brothers sit back down to basically orchestrate their own destruction. It is absolutely staggering to witness. Moving on to part three, the ultimate state. Here is where Sakuni changes the dynamic entirely, pivoting from a game of economics to a game of pure survival. He points out that the old king has actually returned all of their previously lost wealth. The elephants, the gold, the slaves, all of that, off the table now. While the old wealth has returned, the new wager swaps material possessions for outright existential ruin. They aren't betting things anymore, guys. They are betting their very identities and their freedom. And this is no simple banishment. The sheer complexity makes it an almost impossible wager to survive. We're talking 12 whole years in the woods dressed in deerskins. Then a 13th year living completely unrecognized in an inhabited region. And here is the brutal kicker, the penalty loop. If they're recognized even once during that 13th year, boom, they trigger another 12 years of exile. It's a brilliantly sadistic trap designed to ensure they never, ever return. So how on earth does Sakuni get him to agree to this? He frames the trap perfectly by making the threat sound entirely symmetrical. He basically says, hey, if we lose, we will go to the woods. If you lose, you will go to the woods. It offers this false sense of fairness to the ultimate wager. And to a king totally bound by honor, this symmetry makes the challenge almost impossible to turn down. And you can practically feel the tension in the room. The assembly's throwing their arms up in anxiety. The crowd is begging for someone, literally anyone, to intervene, to warn the king. But it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. The entire room can see the massive disaster unfolding right in front of them. But all those pleas from the crowd, they fall on completely deaf ears. Driven by shame and a heavily distorted sense of virtue, Yudhishthira confirms his participation. He tells Sakuni that a king like him, observant of his specific royal order, simply cannot refuse a summons. His very virtues, his strict adherence to duty and order, have literally been weaponized against him.
And that leads us to our final section, the fall of the king.
After all of that intense psychological buildup, the actual loss happens in a flash. The pacing of the text right here is incredible. There's no long debate, no negotiation over the terms, no counteroffers. The horrific proposal for a 13-year exile and that brutal penalty loop was uttered a single, solitary time. Everything in this massive epic built up to this exact moment. One ultimate stake, one fatal decision to play, and a single cast of the dice. The trap snaps shut the absolute second King Yudhishthira utters his acceptance. The moment he agrees, the fate of his entire family, his kingdom, and arguably the entire ancient world in this text is entirely sealed. No going back. Sakuni immediately takes up the dice. He casts them, and with chilling finality, he claims victory in just 4 devastating words. Lo, I have won. The sheer speed of this moment emphasizes just how completely Yudhishthira was outmatched by his own fatalism, and of course, Sakuni's cunning. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought to ponder. We've seen the text lay out 3 distinct culprits for this total disaster: an inescapable divine fate, the psychological derangement of a mind under stress, and a rigid, almost toxic adherence to a code of honor. So which one do you think really cost the king his empire? Understanding how these forces interact might just change the way we look at our own worst decisions. Thanks for joining me. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.